Work hard for what you want in life.
You work hard for what you want in life.
That your word is your bond, that you do what you say you're going to do.
That your word is your bond, and you do what you say.
That you treat people with dignity and respect.
That you treat people with respect.
Reach of your dreams and your willingness to work hard.
The strength of your dreams and your willingness to work for them.
Work hard.
Work hard.
Work hard.
Work hard.
Work hard.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 5 of the Black Girl Boss Podcast. I'm Tatum.
And this your girl Milan.
And we are excited as usual to be back with you guys. Our podcast has just been taking off. Like, y'all are really the best, for real. It's crazy how this has been taking off. So we definitely appreciate you guys. So thank you guys so much for listening. And today, y'all, this is one of those episodes where you're really going to have to get like a piece of paper, get your computer, something where you can take notes. You might have to even listen to this a few times because this is one of those episodes where it's a lot of information. Once we get to our interview with Raevyn, y'all going to see exactly what I'm talking about, but definitely get ready because there's going to be endless jewels dropped today.
Endless, okay?
So before we get into the interview today, I want to talk about y'all president for a second.
Y'all president, not ours.
Y'all, because that man ain't know nothing to me, okay? So he implemented this hiring freeze in the federal government, and we're in the DC area, so that is basically a lot of people in our area. It's our families, it's our friends, it's everybody who works for the federal government. And now they're not going to be able to get jobs. So you guys that's graduating in a couple months, or you guys that just graduated in December and want you a good government job, it might not happen because of that orange thing in office is just not having it. And so I think that if this doesn't send any message, it definitely sends one where now is the best time, if any, to really start a business. Yeah. Like, we have to empower ourselves and start businesses so that we can be able to sustain ourselves, like, and stop relying on the government, stop relying on other people who started companies to employ us, because obviously that stuff is not secure. Definitely not as secure as our parents or grandparents thought it was.
Absolutely. So
that's my message for today out of that. What you think, Milan?
Y'all, I'm disgusted by him. The thought of him, the sight of him, anything around him just disgusts me. And it's outside of the hiring freeze. It's all 17 executive orders that he's placed in a short amount of time. He just was inaugurated on the 20th, and today's the 29th. That's 9 days. And we can't count weekends because we know weekends is not even in place to get an executive order signed. So you put 17 in, and one that's circling the internet right now is the immigration ban. And as Tatum was speaking, I was actually checking Twitter out in the moment section, and right now, 2 minutes ago, Washington, D.C. to Raleigh, North Carolina, civil rights groups and protesters continue to organize and demonstrate over President Donald Trump's executive order on immigration. So the immigration ban is causing a lot of conversation over the weekend, and that's because in New York, the airport was so filled with people trying to leave out the country because they're being literally put out of the country. So the federal judge of New York, he overruled the ban only for that day because it was too chaotic. But as we know, an executive order really can't be overruled unless it's by the Supreme Court over a civil lawsuit. And that takes how many years?
Right. That is so crazy. And I don't even really like to talk politics because Jay-Z said, F government, we politic ourselves. And I'm a Sean Corey Carter fan to the death of me, okay?
Corey Carter.
So I'm listening to him on this one, and I really don't even like politics, but I just think that this message that's being sent is like, y'all, now is the time to start your own business, because don't get caught out here trying to figure out what's going on or what can you do with your life. Like, now is the time to really seek God and figure out what the purpose is for your life and really turn that into a business.
Absolutely. He's not a political person. He's a business person. So that's the only way you might be safe.
Listen.
But I don't give him 6 months, honestly, because Congress was already side-eyeing him, like, because they have to keep in mind that, yes, he's putting these executive orders in. It affects the country. Like, they're not safe either. So they're really side-eyeing him right now. But it's like, I'm not too up to date and familiar as from what I can remember. I'm not really sure if the impeachment process goes through. Does it remove his administration or does it just remove him?
Don't ask me, I don't know.
Because, they say the vice president steps up in case of death, resignation, and something else. But I'm not sure if the impeachment process will remove the whole administration, because if not, then we might as well leave him, because if we get rid of him and Pence is still there and he's the president, he's worse. So right now it's just a time to be awake. It's a time to really consider your future, your children's future, and really understand what's happening around us, because this country is taking the turn for the worse so fast.
And I know, like I said, I was never really into politics, but now we have to be into politics.
You're forced.
Like, we really have to, because I turn 26 next year. That means that I'm off my parents' health care and I'm trying to hang on with dear life. Like, dang, I'm about to be off this right now. I got to figure out what the heck I'm going to do, because by then I'm going to be a full-time entrepreneur. So all of that stuff now is relevant to us.
Absolutely.
So we got to really start paying attention and, like I said, empower ourselves. Did you go to the Women's March?
I didn't. That was when I was in North Carolina for Vina's event. I didn't get to go, but I heard that it was more people at the Women's March than it was at inauguration.
How did you feel about the whole setup of the Women's March? Because to be honest, I was really on the fence about the whole thing. I really could have went, but I just didn't want to.
I feel like, yes, this is the Women's March. We've had them before, but this one was so surrounded by him. It wasn't really like, you know what I mean? Like, we have many things to march about all the time, but it's like now it's so empowering. And so because he wants to grab you by the pussy, he wants to put a, ban on abortions. Now you want to march about it, but it's been years that we should have been marching about different things. But I don't know. I'm indifferent about it. It was powerful because women, we finally came together. White women, black women, it was peaceful.
Yeah.
So I will commend everyone who went out on that, but the structure of it and the reasoning behind it, I'm not sure if I'm like really.
Yeah, I was indifferent about it too, because I thought that my perception of it, I don't think the marketing was that good. But my perception of it was like, oh, this is the feminist movement.
Right.
These are a bunch of white women that's coming to march about their stuff, and they want us to be involved until it's a Black Lives Matter march. Then the asses ain't nowhere to be found. Like, that was my thought.
Look, Tatum said it. I spoke around it, but she said it right. It was white women. Like,
so I was like, I'm not about to go sit with these bras. But then when it's something, you know what I'm saying, for us, they ain't nowhere to be found. So
y'all so mad because he wouldn't grab y'all by the pussy, and man, y'all just mad.
But then when I pay more attention to it after the fact, I'm not the marching type anyway. I don't like crowds. But when I looked into it after the fact, it was actually organized by like a few black women. Like, there was a few black women on the board, or whatever you want to call it. And then there was a lot of black women there, like Angela Davis was there, like the Angela Davis, like she was there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Beverly Baum was there, the founder of Black Girls Rock. There were a lot of black women who are for black women empowerment there. So I wish that the black women who were helping plan it would have did more to let us know that this is for us too.
Right, been at the forefront.
Right, and I think that if they were more so at the forefront and letting us know that this is inclusive, I would have listened to them and went, as opposed to just went and been in solidarity with a bunch of people I don't feel like care about me.
It was these two Caucasian women on the plane that I rode next to on our way to Charlotte, which was a very, very bumpy ride. I thought the plane was going to drop out the sky because it's in the middle of a storm. But they were sharing pictures about when they went to the Women's March and everything. But what confused me was the fact that the one lady that was sitting next to me was like, yeah, we came up here for the inauguration. So you came up here for the inauguration, and then you marched the next day against.
But a lot of white people are having like buyer's remorse right now. A lot of people are saying we voted for Trump and now he's doing all this stuff and I'm mad I voted for him. Like,
you're stupid and you've been stupid and you're going to stay stupid.
Exactly.
Stupid.
Exactly. Exactly. You hopped on the racist part. Now you found out that he's more than just racist. Now his evilness affects you. Now you mad.
Now you
girl.
mad.
Goodbye.
Yeah. Tatum and I say your president for whoever is supporting, because he doesn't do anything for us. Like he doesn't target us. So that's your president at the end of the day. He don't target me. He doesn't do anything that's benefiting me. He's against me. So your president.
So you guys, again, that's listening. The message is, F government, we politic ourselves, in the words of Sean Corey Carter. So let's take a little break and then we'll come back with Raevyn's interview. Whoop, whoop. Today we have a really, really, really special guest. We have Miss Raevyn Jones in the building. Before we get into Raevyn's interview, I'm going to read you guys a little bit of her bio and brag on her a little bit before we get to asking her some questions. So, Raevyn Jones is an award-winning entrepreneur who launched her first business at the age of 21. She has since become an advocate for people to do what it is they love and divorce the 9-to-5 to create their own economy. Living by the principles of purpose and persistence, Raevyn's mission is to motivate others to live to their fullest potential and create the life that they deserve. She prides herself on being a visionary and life learner. So Raevyn, thank you so much for being on the show. And I also want to add, I brag about Raevyn all the time and her business, Pink Slip Prep School, which I think is just the foundation for everything that I've been able to learn about business. And all of the knowledge that I have, a lot of it has come from your program. So thank you for being awesome at what you do.
Thanks for having me here.
Yes, and thank you so much for being a part of the show. So let's start from the very beginning.
Okay.
When did you know that you were going to be an entrepreneur?
Oh my goodness. Probably from the womb. It's like I'm just playing. But I feel like early on in my journey with like my 9-to-5 and all that stuff, like a lot of things were revealed to me. Like I was only in a 9-to-5 for about 18 months, but I feel like everything that you could see that goes wrong in a 9-to-5, I saw that in that little bit of time. Probably everything except like maybe something as extreme as sexual harassment. But I mean, I saw the boss, cussing people out. I saw people getting laid off. It was times where we were getting paid late. It was pay cuts. It was like crappy benefits. I mean, all the signs that could point to you need to be working for yourself, all those signs were there. But I ignored it, of course, because you go to college and they tell you you need to go to school and get this degree, get this job, be comfortable for the rest of your life, get the benefits, whatever. And that just didn't happen for me. Like, I got the job, but I never got the happily ever after. And that's what I wanted, because I felt like, you go to work every day and yes, you can pay your bills and all that stuff, but you go home and you're angry. You're yelling at people in the house and it's affecting you mentally and health-wise because you have the job, but you don't have the happiness. And to me, that was important. I've always been a person that I need to do something that I love. If I can't brag about it, I don't want to do it. Which is why even in my entrepreneurial journey, I don't do things just for money, because I like to do things that have a true purpose behind it. So I would say I knew just kind of seeing all those things in such a short span of time, but also growing up, I was always super independent. Like, I'm one of 4. A lot of people always think I'm an only child, but I'm one of 4 and I'm not the oldest. And when you're not the oldest or the youngest, you kind of just fall like in the middle, and it's like you got to figure it out on your own type of thing. So growing up, like, we got allowance sometimes, when allowance was available, but allowance is not always available when you're one of 4. But I've always been that person that liked very nice things, even from an early age. Like, remember when you used to play the game, like, that's my car? Like, I would be saying that, but I would be for real. Like, that's really my car. Like, that's really going to be my car one day. And so I knew, like, I have to figure this out on my own. I can't get allowance. I didn't grow up in the kind of family where everybody was wealthy and all this stuff. And, I just had that one rich aunt that I could ask for money and stuff like that. Like, I didn't grow up with that. So from a very early age, I was self-sufficient in doing things on my own, whether it was I'm braiding all my little cousin's hair or I'm babysitting, somebody's child. I'm doing something trying to be sufficient on my own. Like, I wasn't the person as a teenager that was like, oh my goodness, let me hurry up and get this job at McDonald's, or let me hurry up and get this job at the clothing store. Not that it was anything wrong with those jobs, but from an early age, I was already seeing how I could do so much more on my own. And honestly, very young, I had like the boss kind of CEO mentality. So I told you I'm one of 4, so I have 2 little sisters. So what I used to do, I used to watch my little cousin. She was like a baby. And so she was dropped off to me, and I will never forget, it was like from like 8 to 11 on Saturday mornings. So I would watch her for 3 hours, and I think I got like $5 or $10 or something to watch her. So I'd be on the phone, you know, pumping tea with my friends, whatever. And I would have my little sisters watching her, and I would give them like $1, and I would take, you know, my $3 or whatever that was left over. But it was almost like they worked for me kind of thing. Now, of course, when you're in middle school, you know, you're 13, 14, you don't know exactly what that is, and you don't know how you're structuring things. But when I look back on things in retrospect, I always had that self-sufficient kind of mentality. And even in high school, when I would get like real jobs, I would always get fired because the jobs were always whack, like always whack. And then it's like, oh, you can't do this. You can't. Okay, so you can tell me what to do. You can tell me when I got to be here. Tell me what I have to wear. Like that, this sounds like prison to me. Exactly. And I don't want to be here. So I just knew, you know, very early on, like, this is not for me. And I think a lot of people feel like I have this attitude towards people that have a 9-to-5, but it's really not true. I feel like there's some people that enjoy what they do in their 9-to-5. They love it. And that's a true blessing, but that wasn't me. Right. I was there and I felt like I wasn't really fulfilling my purpose. I just felt like I was there. And for me, it's like I could be home. You know, I could be taking a nap if I just want to sit here and lay around and not be of any type of value. So I knew very, very early on that I was definitely meant to be an entrepreneur.
That's so funny. I've been fired probably like 3 or 4 times.
No, that's
and I didn't even really correlate the two until just now. It was because that's just not where I'm supposed to be. But that's so funny. I want to ask like a lot of entrepreneurs how many times have they been fired?
Oh yeah,
'Cause I'm sure it's more than once.
Yeah.
So not many people know that Pink Slip Prep School wasn't your first business. So walk us through what your first business was and why did you switch over to being a business coach?
Yeah, so that's a good question because, like you said, not a lot of people know that Pink Slip Prep School isn't my first business, but not a lot of people know that that's not my only business either. Not that I'm secretive, but, you know, a lot of people, I think, just associate me so much with what I do because we've worked with so many people. But I started off in public relations and marketing, and you know, I realized I started that business because that was my comfort zone. That's what I had my degree in. You know, that's what I had most of my internships in throughout my college years. So it was kind of like, why would you not start, you know, a public relations business? But I had to realize that was the same type of attitude. Like, why would you not get a job? That's what everybody else is saying that you should do. So the PR business, it was something I was extremely passionate about, but I knew that it wasn't my purpose. I felt like we were helping so many other people live in their purpose and do all these great things, and I was kind of behind the scenes just being the brains of it. When I'm like, you know, I want to really get out there and serve people. I want to help people. I want to make a difference. I want somebody to remember me for the rest of their lives because we've helped them do, you know, whatever. So I honestly, hard to believe, but I fought it for a very long time because when I transitioned into being a business coach and strategist and all that other stuff, it was before it was like super trendy. Like it was before you could just put that in your Instagram bio and it makes you that. And so a lot of people didn't really know what it was. So it looked crazy to people because it was like, wait a minute, you just were doing this. Now you do this. Like, you know, you just were doing nails. Now you sell cars. Like, that's how people feel. Like, you just are like hustle man out here. So I had to really convince people of why this was something that was so needed in the marketplace. And I remember so many people telling me, like, nobody's going to pay you to motivate them. Nobody's going to pay you to help them leave their job. Don't nobody want to leave their job. Like, this is a job culture. Like, I mean, so many people would say this to me. And then people looked at what I did like it was super glamorous because we were working with a lot of NFL players. I mean, we worked with the Ravens when we won the Super Bowl, went to New Orleans. So, you know, people look at that and they feel like, oh, well, you work with these people. You need to just be happy and, you know, you need to just shut up. But again, I didn't feel like that was my purpose. So it really just was not enough for me. So I remember in my PR business, it was like everywhere that I would try to go out, it would just hit a wall. Like I would try to do this. wall, try to do that, wall. Like everything was just like getting shut down. So I'm like, okay, you know, God is clearly trying to tell me something. I'm clearly not trying to hear it because
Right.
I'm trying to go down every lane that I can go besides the one that he's directed me to. And so my back was really against the wall. Like there were no opportunities coming in my PR business. I was always good at doing business. So I'm like, I know I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing. You know, it's just not working out. So I had people reaching out to me asking me to be their business coach. So I'm like, what is a business coach? You know, I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's something that I can charge people for, but I just knew, again, my back was up against the wall.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, okay. I had Googled some stuff. Of course, we always go to Google. Google some stuff, realize, you know, I could charge people a consulting fee. So I respond back, okay, you know, I could do it. It's going to be 1 hour. This is going to be the fee. I'll send you the invoice. I'm not thinking that these people are going to pay the invoice because I don't even know what is happening here. Like, what are we talking about? So send both people the invoice. They both paid it. So now I got to really provide them with the service.
Right.
I got to provide them with the service, whatever the service is. So I do their consulting session or their coaching session. And I mean, they're just saying, oh my goodness, I have these life-changing results. And it was like, okay, I'll really see where this can go. Right. You know, I'll see where it can go. I'll see who I can serve. And I mean, literally my first year in my coaching business, I made more than I had ever made in my PR business, like all the years combined. So you always know when the opportunities are there and the resources are there. Like that's when you know that you are really walking in your purpose and doing what you're supposed to be doing, because everything will fall into place. It just comes easy. Like, I mean, I've gotten clients and I'm like, where did you even come from? Like, you know, clients in places that I've never been, like clients in Kansas, like clients in, I mean, I've been to California, but clients there, clients in small places in Florida, clients in upstate New York, like just the weirdest places. And I'm like, how did you even find me? But I know that that's because I'm walking in my purpose, and so everybody who I'm supposed to help, they're all being released to me. Right. So I would just say to any entrepreneur that might be in a business right now, and you feel like you're there just because it's glamorous, or you know you're there for the money or whatever, really hone in and focus on walking in your purpose, because I mean that's where all the real rewards are.
Yeah, and I want to actually emphasize something that you said. A lot of people always write to us and ask us, well, how do I know what my purpose is? How do I know if this is the right thing for me? And even listening to your story, there were signs and you paid attention to them. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't do. They don't pay attention to what God's trying to tell them. And so then you're so worried about, oh, God's not talking back to me. I don't know what my purpose is. But it's because you're not present enough in your everyday life and what it is that you're doing to actually see what's being, you know, put in front of you. So I think that was really good. So we talked about how you knew you were going to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Your first business transitioning to your current business. Let's talk about that 9-to-5 life. Like, what was that like when you finally made that leap?
Goodness. When I finally made the leap, it was like I was like seriously born again. Like, seriously, I cannot explain the feeling. It was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I was like absolutely glowing just because I was so happy. And mind you, I was broke, but I was so happy that it was like no amount of money that somebody could pay me to go back into a 9-to-5. I just felt excited, you know, waking up. I loved all the challenges that were coming my way and just being able to embrace them. And then as I started working with more people and serving more people, I just felt needed. And that was something that at my 9-to-5, I never really felt needed, but I always felt used, if that makes sense. I always felt like, you know, y'all call me when it's for y'all. You know, y'all don't ever, I just never really felt that sense of appreciation. And so to be in your own business and, you know, working with clients and to have them actually appreciate you, like that's something that I never, ever, ever take for granted. Becoming self-employed also changed my life in a variety of other ways. I think people don't realize how much your career and what you do on a daily basis can really impact you. Because you got to think, when you're at a 9-to-5, you're spending 40 weeks there. 40 hours a week there. And that's just the time that you're there. You might be taking work home, you know, taking stress home, whatever else. So it's really, really affecting you. When I left my job within a couple months, like I had like started to value my health a lot more, started exercising, like just making much more mindful decisions of my health, making more mindful decisions about men that I allowed to take my time. And, you know, that's something so many women, like, I just had that attitude, like, I'm not settling. I didn't settle for my job, so I'm not settling for a man. So I feel like I just up leveled, like, on every single thing in my life just because I had made that decision. Because it's like, I can't be out here telling people, oh, create the life that you want, and I don't have, you know, the body I want, or I don't have the man that I want and the things that I want. Like, I really had to get out there and be the example, because of course people are going to be connected to you on social media, but they're going to do some research and ask questions about you, like, is she really about the things that she's saying that, you know, she's about? So you got to make sure that whatever you're preaching in your entrepreneurial journey, you're really about it. Like, you're always your best client, no matter what it is that you do. So I had to really get out there, start working hard. You know, I can't tell my clients market themselves and their business, and I'm just out here chilling and never doing any marketing and things like that. So I had to really step up and become a leader. Like, that's probably the best word that I could use to describe my transition. Like, it was a lot of growth, and still continues to be a lot of growth in my leadership journey.
So did you plan financially? Because a lot of people, when they reach out to us, it's always, well, how do I prepare? How do I prepare to take that leap? It seems like you just took it and was like, I'm tired of y'all niggas, I'm out.
Yes, and I would never, ever, ever. And that's why I do what I do, because I would never advise that somebody leave their 9-to-5 in the way that I left mine. I mean, that's how I know, like, I'm only here because God wants me here. Like, that's how I know. That's why when people call me and say stuff like, oh, you see so-and-so doing what you do, I'll be like, I don't care, because God put me here. I know I didn't, because I didn't know what I was doing. So it's no way, like, all that coming up with the strategy before you leave that we teach our students, I didn't have that, because when I was at my 9-to-5, there was no pink slip prep school, and it wasn't cool to be an entrepreneur at that time. It was crazy, not cool. So people were looking at you like, girl, you dumb. You know, they're not saying it, but they're looking at you like that, and that's what they're thinking. So I did have a little bit of savings. I want to say I probably had about maybe like between $6,000 and $8,000 saved. But when you have bills, and when you got Sally Mae, everybody knows Sally, you know, that can go really, really quickly. So, I mean, I literally looked up, and in 4 months, like, all that money was gone. You know, I had nothing to show for it, because it doesn't matter how much you save. I love that we're touching on this, because that's a question that we get a lot too. Well, what's the perfect amount that I should have saved? And when you read a lot of books and, you know, do a lot of Google stuff and all that, they'll say like, oh, have a year saved. But listen, it don't matter how much you have saved. If nothing is coming in, you're going to deplete right through that. And you're never going to feel like you have enough saved. You're never going to feel like you have enough saved. You're never going to feel like it's the perfect timing. So just like you said, when should I make that leap? You got to know that it's going to be a leap, and it's not going to be a step. Like, it's not going to seem like it's super perfect, because entrepreneurship is also testing you. Like, how bad do you really want it? Do you want it enough to give up your comfort zone and come over here to the land of the uncomfortable? Like, you got to first make that decision. So I would say no, to answer your question. I definitely was not prepared financially. But again, you know, I never authorized anyone to do that, which is why we do what we do. Anytime somebody asks me what's the perfect time to leave my 9-to-5, I always say you need to pray, and you need to have a conversation with God about that, because you know, your time might not be the same as somebody else's time. Their time might not be the same as your time. And it's not going, I guarantee you, it is not going to look how you thought it was going to look. It is not going to look like that. I get people that come to me like, oh, I need to save up 100,000 first. Where? You don't even make 100,000. Exactly. How you going to save? You know, like, it's not going to happen like that. So financially, you have to know, and I'm definitely going to talk about this later on in the interview, like what entrepreneurship did to me financially. Because if you are not willing to take a risk financially, if you're not willing to sacrifice some things financially, you will never be a successful entrepreneur. And I don't say never a lot, but if you can't do those things, like, you'll never, I mean, all the things that we take for granted, getting our nails done, you know, getting our hair done, maybe going to Macy's or Nordstrom and buying a pair of $100 shoes. Like, all of those things have to be sacrificed. And you'd be surprised how many people want to hand in their pink slip, but they don't even want to sacrifice those things.
Right.
So,
well, let's get right into it, because my next question was going to be about the mistakes that you've made. So what are some of those financial mistakes and any mistakes that you made early on?
Is this being recorded? It's like, I'm joking. I have no problem being transparent about my mistakes financially, because I know that it'll help somebody. So first of all, entrepreneurship absolutely ruined my credit in the beginning. And when I say ruined, I mean like lower than a 500 kind of ruined.
Wow.
Like you cannot get Chick-fil-A in your name kind of ruined. Like it was a mess. And it was because even though I had always been, or I had always considered myself to be pretty good with money, like saving, and I mean like literally I was only making $32,000 a year at my job, and I managed to save $8,000 in a matter of like months. So, you know, like I had always been good from that element of money, but as far as credit, you know, they don't teach you that in college, even though you get out of college in debt. So you would think that they would teach you about credit and personal finance, but they don't teach you about that in college. So I had no idea just how bills really worked and how credit really worked and, you know, all that other stuff. And so when I say that my credit took a hit, it took a hit because I sacrificed a lot of things for my business. So if it was about, okay, do I pay my business coach or do I pay this bill? I was paying my business coach because I felt like if I pay for this, then one day I can pay off all this, you know, debt. But I wasn't strategic with it. Like I would miss like my credit card bill and they would call and I would be like hiding, not answering my phone. Like that's the worst thing that you can do when you're having a problem financially is not communicate. So, you know, being late on so much stuff damaged my credit score really bad. And like latenesses is the worst thing on your credit report. That is like the hardest thing to make up for. Like all this stuff started to happen like 2011, 2012. My credit score is just like getting back right. Now, don't get me wrong. I took a long time to address it because it was so bad that I didn't even want to face it. Like, it was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to log into Credit Karma. No, I don't want to see the credit update. I don't want to check my bank account. Like, I mean, it was a mess for that first year. And so just the fear of that, because I felt like if I log in and I look at my credit score, I'm going to have a horrible day, like looking at this, because I'm just going to be thinking about the fact that maybe I'll never get to own a home, or maybe I'll always need, you know, a co-signer on a car or whatever. So falling behind in my bills was definitely a mistake that I made. Now, sometimes, you know, when you're starting out as an entrepreneur, you will have to pick and choose. Am I going to pay this or am I going to pay that? Right. But I would say know what you can be late on, know how late you can be, and communicate with people. If you can't pay your Capital One bill, don't just not pay it and not answer the phone. Like, they want you to pay your bill. So they're calling you not to hound you and harass you. They just want to know that you're going to pay it. They want to know how much you can pay. Like, and these are all the things that no one ever told me. So I would just not pay it, and that would just be it. And then, you know, my credit score is just going down, down, down. So I would say just not being on time with things, that was like one of the biggest mistakes financially. I would say the biggest one is not having a plan before I left as far as how the revenue was going to come in. Because people think as an entrepreneur, build it and they'll come. Right. No, build it and they'll look at it and walk by. Like, it's not the build it and they'll come mentality. Like, go and get them so that when you build it, you can take them with you. Like, that's how you absolutely have to think when it comes to your business, because you'll look up and you got this really pretty website and all the pretty graphics. And, you know, we've talked about this. Like, I hate when people focus on the bright, shiny objects and don't have any clients. Like, you can't even pay the bill for your Squarespace account because you don't have any clients. Like, it's so crazy to me. So I would say making sure that that plan is in place for how you're actually going to make money in your business prior to leaving your job. Like, that was something that I didn't do. I just had the build it and they'll come mentality. Like, you know, that was another mistake. I felt like, okay, well, I'll have more time to focus on my business. And because I have more time, I'll be more productive. I'll get more done. And in turn, I'll get more clients. No. If you don't have a plan for how you're going to spend your time, you're going to end up wasting a lot of it. You have to think about time the same way you think about money. You got to budget it and you have to allocate where you spend your time. So if you leave your job and you don't have a schedule, you don't know what times of the day you need to focus on marketing and getting clients and which time you need to be focusing in your business and serving your clients, then you're going to look up, and once all those clients are done, your bankroll is done. Right. Or, it never starts because you think that the only way to get clients is being on social media posting away. So it was a lot of, mistakes financially. I would probably say the last mistake. What would I say for the last one? Probably not properly researching things before I would invest my money into it. Because I'm that person, and I'm still that person. If I see something, it could benefit my business, I'm like, well, where do I sign? Who do I write the check to? That's how I think, because I feel like, okay, it's an investment. It's going to get me a return. That's how I look at everything. And early on in my business, it was just making a lot of uneducated decisions with my money. Especially because I was in PR, I thought I had to be at every event. Right. Every single event. I remember we had decided, me and my business partner had decided maybe 2 days before the ESPYs that we were going to go, and we were going to do this event out there. That flight was $700. You cannot just up and be oh, I'm going to LA I was living in Baltimore at the time. I'm going to LA from Baltimore, and I'm planning this 2 days in advance, and I'm going for the biggest sporting event. You can't just do that. And so, doing a lot of stuff like that, needless to say, the event never happened, lost my $700. I think I was able to use it for another flight or something, but I had to pay a $200 fee to do that. So it was a mess. That's $1,000 that could have went towards something else. So being very mindful of where you spend your money is so important, especially now for entrepreneurs, because it's so many people who are saying, oh, I do this, I can help you with this. And a lot of these people, I know them in real life, and I'm just looking back and I'm like, okay, and people just don't do the research, so they think just because this person has a pretty Facebook ad with these nice graphics that they're the go-to PR person. And little do they know they've had their business for 6 days and don't have any clients. But they're about to tell you how to do your own PR, and they've never done it for somebody, So just really doing your background research into people before you invest in working with them.
I think those are some really great points. So going through all these mistakes and stuff, I know that there have been times where you were just why in the world am I doing this? Yes. So how important do you think mindset is to entrepreneurship, and how did you get through all of those mistakes?
Oh my goodness. The first year is the hardest. I'm not married yet, but people say oh, your first year of marriage, that's probably equivalent to your first year as an entrepreneur, because 1 second you're like, what am I doing? And then the next, it's oh, this is so great, and I love it, and my business is booming. And then again, it's wait, what? It's a mess. So if your mind is not in order, you will drive yourself nuts. You will constantly doubt yourself. You will constantly wonder, should I do this? Did I make the best decision? So your mind is the first thing that you have to get in check. People think it's your money, but it's really your mind. If you can get your mind in check, everything else will fall into place. If you can't get your mind in check, everything else will fall on deaf ears. So you definitely want to make sure that you're doing some of those things that people might say is cliche, but the affirmations, I still use affirmations. Affirmations are so powerful. I remember at one point in my business, I felt okay, I don't really need to do affirmations. And then I saw my business changing in a way that I didn't like. So I'm oh, I need to bring that back. I need to be doing my affirmations in the morning again. Another really, really important thing is spiritually. Whoever you believe in, I believe in God, but if you are not already super, super close with him, entrepreneurship is going to make you hugging all up on him, loving all, because it's you don't have anything else to depend on. my first year being self-employed, again, this was before it was like, now being self-employed is so cool. It's like, oh my God, like people are like enamored with you. Back in 2011, it's like, you're dumb. Like it wasn't cool back then. It wasn't cool. And so being in that world, nobody really understood. My family didn't understand, you know, my friends didn't understand. So if things weren't really going right for me and my business at that time, I didn't have that army of people that I have now where I could pick up the phone and be like, girl, you know, this isn't working out. They would have been like, go get a job. Like, I've been waiting for you to call me and tell me this. Go get it. Like, that's how they would have reacted, basically. So it was a lot of nights, just me, you know, crying and pouring my heart out to God. Like, help me with this. Like, show me the way. Like, I remember one night, like, I will never forget this night because I was so mad. I don't even know what happened. Like, I know that it was back in 2012. And I remember just, it was like on my mind so much that I just could not sleep. Like, it was just bothering me because I was in my own apartment at that time. I never have had like a roommate or anything like that. I've always like lived on my own, paying the rent, all the rent on your own, like everything. So I was in my apartment. I want to say I maybe had just got there. So I was only there for like a month. So all this was new to me. Like, you know, your own bills and all that stuff was like super new to me. And I remember like being so hungry. And it was like no food in the refrigerator and no money in my bank account. And I've always been that person, like, nothing against people that eat like oodles and noodles, but I don't eat those. I never did, even as a child. I mean, I'll eat stuff like, you know, peanut butter and jelly and stuff like that, but I've never been that kind of person. And, you know, that's the kind of food that when you don't have a lot, it'll get you by. So I ate a lot of spaghetti my first year as an entrepreneur, because you can make spaghetti with less than $10 and it will last you like a week and a half, like smooth. So I remember like one night I just was crying out and I was like, you know I'm not supposed to be comfortable, so I'm not praying to you, I'm not asking you for comfort, but I was like, if I could just eat, you know, if I could just have gas to go from point A to point, because I mean, it was that tight at the time. Like, people would be like, oh, can you come here? Can we ride together? I'm not really telling them why we got to ride together, but I can't come because I need my gas to get here, you know, for the rest of the week. I need it to last me. So just being in that space, that was when I saw a true shift in my business, because I had finally shifted my mind. I wasn't looking for comfort anymore. It was like, you know what? I'm living on the edge. I'm walking on the wild side. I'm in the uncomfortable zone, and I'm cool with it. Like, I'm fine with it. I just ask for, you know, these basic resources that I need to survive. As long as I can survive, I'm good. So just getting in that space mentally, so important for entrepreneurs. Like, you'll definitely see a big shift, like in your bank account, the people that you're surrounded with, all that stuff, when you start to see a shift in your mindset.
No, I think that's a really good point, because I remember when probably about midway through your program, it was like July, and we were talking and you were like, you don't even sound like yourself. What is wrong with you? I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I just can't stop crying. I just can't stop crying. Oh my God, nothing is going right. And you were like, oh no. And then just gave me these mindset exercises and was like, look, we're going to talk tomorrow, because I don't know what's up with you, but you can't be productive like this.
I can't even talk to her like this. Because I know, and I think a lot of times when my students bring something to me, they feel like, oh my goodness, this is so new. And I'm like, everything that y'all go through, I probably have went through it 10 times worse. So none of it is new to me. So I hear it and I'm like, okay, this is what you do, A, B, C. You know, I was going through that and there was no blueprint. It was like, what? How am I supposed to get through this? Like, you got my mindset all crazy, but I got to do this event tomorrow, or I have to do this. So, you know, just the mental part of being an entrepreneur, it will take you so far. I mean, because you always need it. Like, even when you get to a business that you're making multi-six figures and the next goal is $1 million, being a millionaire requires a different mindset than it did to make your first 6 figures. Like, making your first 6 figures requires a different mindset than it did to get, you know, the first client in your business. So every new level, like people say, every new level requires a new you. Every new level requires a new mental. And, you know, we got to adapt to that as entrepreneurs.
Yes, and something else I want to point out is those sacrifices, because people do not want to, like you said, downgrade their lifestyle in order. Because I remember when I signed up for your program, I had came to you, and even have to pitch me. I was like, I'm just ready.
She was like, no, I want this. Like, I don't want no 90-minute. No, I want the full work.
Exactly. So I was like, when I talked to you, I was like, okay, how much you told me? I said, okay. I called like my parents or whatever. I'm like, look, we need to make this happen. I can't afford it on my own, but we need to make this happen. So they were like, let me call you back. So they called me back like a couple hours later and like, Aww. This is what we can do. Figure out the rest. I said, that's fine. So I went right back to my budget. I was like, okay, grocery budget is getting cut. Mm-hmm. I ate a PB&J every day for a long time. Ain't nobody know.
Don't realize.
I didn't care.
And that's how you get rewarded. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, making those sacrifices, people don't realize with sacrifice comes reward. Like, exactly. I remember when I first left my job, this was a year after graduating from college. And, when you go to a HBCU, everybody want to turn up. Everybody wants to be, whatever weekend it is in Miami, they're there. Whatever weekend it is in New York, they're there. We're everywhere kind of thing. So it's constantly people calling you, girl, can you go to such and such weekend here? Can you do? And it's like, no, I can't do it. And I used to get so upset, like, I can't even afford to go to Miami. You can fly to Miami for like $100 like these days. So I'm like, I can't even afford to go to Miami. Like, oh my goodness. But I remember a lot of those same people that were asking me to go to Miami and all that stuff, like when I went to Paris, when I went to Spain, when I went to Italy, they couldn't go.
Right.
Like, so those sacrifices, you will definitely get rewarded for those things in the long term. And people, your business is going to cost you. I always say, like, what are you willing to give up so you can go up? And again, the sacrifices don't stop. People think that once your business gets to a certain point, it's like, oh, all the sacrifices stop. I'm sitting here now thinking about a sacrifice that I'm going to have to make so I can buy another property in all cash. Like, that's going to be a major, major sacrifice. And I'm not going to like it. But when I get the property and I see the return of investment, I'm going to be so thankful. Like, okay, what's my next sacrifice? So you have to think about building your empire in that way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So last week we talked about balancing like friendships and relationships and stuff with business. How hard was that for you in the beginning?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's talk about the beginning and the now, because it is a constant struggle. I will admit. So in the beginning, it was very challenging because I didn't have a bunch of friends that were entrepreneurs. So they're still calling you like, oh, you want to go out? Like, they don't understand that it's Sunday and you might be working on a Sunday. They don't understand you got to get ready for your week. So having friends like that when you're first starting, it can be very distracting and it can be hard to balance because you don't want your friends to think that you don't want to be their friend anymore. Right. And it's like, oh, I can't really hang with you like that. So that's why your circle of friends kind of has to change so that your balance is a lot better. Because, me telling a lot of my entrepreneur friends like, oh, I'm doing, the podcast today. Oh, I'm so excited. They're not like, what is that? What are y'all doing? Why you got to go there? Like everybody gets what I do because now I have that circle of friends. I would say as far as balance, like you have to think about what's important to you. I was always that person in undergrad. Like I would never miss a beat. I mean, I'm at every party. If it's something going on, like over on the yard, I'm over there. Like I'm going home on the weekends, but I was a straight A student. Like did not miss a beat. Like I would have my little fun, but when it's time to study, it's time to study and I can't, go with y'all. So just having that sense of discipline, it is so important because if you don't, especially as your own boss, like no one's going to call you and say, oh my goodness, you didn't do this, you're fired. But don't think that it doesn't catch up with you. If you don't do what you're supposed to do as an entrepreneur in January, in February, you're going to be like, ooh, what happened here? Yeah, because you weren't disciplined in January and now it's coming out. And it might not be the very next month for some people, depending on where they are in their business. But I know if I don't do what I'm supposed to do in January, in December, I'm going to be wondering why stuff is looking crazy. Right. So just having that sense of discipline is really important with the balance. You got to get comfortable with telling people no. Like, I mean, I still get people, oh, can we do this? No. I can't do it. And I'm not trying to be mean or, I'm not trying to be shady to y'all, but I just can't. Like, I don't have the lifestyle that y'all have, so I have to turn certain things down.
Right.
As far as balancing relationships, like, this is a whole nother podcast, but you have to be with the right person.
Yes.
If you are not with the right person, like, I mean, it is always going to be a distraction. It's always going to be like, girl, you can leave that podcast after an hour, or you could do this, or you don't have to do that tonight. You can wait until tomorrow. It's always going to be a distraction if you're not with the right person. I'm not going to go as far as to say that if you're an entrepreneur, you need to be with somebody that's an entrepreneur, but you have to be with somebody that understands your lifestyle as an entrepreneur. Like for me, my boyfriend, soon to be fiance, y'all.
Oh, yes.
But my soon to be fiance, he would gag if he saw this. But
We'll put it in the description for him.
he's so like just understanding of what I have to do, and that's because he's an entrepreneur, but he also understands what I do, and he wants to see me be successful, even more successful. Like, that's another thing as women, like, be with somebody that celebrates you, not somebody that is like, ooh, if she go and do that podcast interview, is she going to go far beyond me? You know, like, it's so important, like, making good decisions as far as that, because it's times that, you know, you got to do this, and you can't be boo loving at times. I work, you know, very hard. I love what I do, so sometimes it's hard to turn it off. And you know, I knew that I had to be with somebody that would understand that it might be 9:00 at night on a Sunday, and I might be like, oh my goodness, I got this idea, and you need to listen now. Not, you know, on Monday just because it's a business day. I need you to listen and give me some feedback now. So just being with the right person and having designated times. Like, one of the things that I did in the last couple of weeks, I actually showed my clients my full schedule. So like what I do like on a day-to-day basis. And they were like, what is Tim time? My boyfriend's name is Tim. And I was like, that's the time that nobody can call me, because, you know, during the lunch break, it's like, that's his time. My calls have to end. I mean, I used to take crazy calls. Like, West Coast clients, I used to be on the phone with them until like 11 o'clock. Not anymore, because I know, like, I can't do that. So just having balance with your schedule and prioritizing what is important to you.
Right. No, I think that's great. We talked about that last week, and everybody loved that episode. So
my gosh,
I know they're gonna be having a fit when it comes to this part. So we talked about like the mistakes and the struggles. What were some of your proudest moments as an entrepreneur?
Oh my goodness. I would have to say my proudest moments are always my clients. Like, oh my gosh, I love like bragging about them, because it's so exciting. It's like to really see, like, you know, back in my early days as an entrepreneur, like, I really couldn't understand why I had to go through so much. Like, I would see other people and it just looks like it's so easy and just easy breezy and all that. And I'm over here like struggling, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, why is this going on? But I realized, like, I had to go through all that stuff so that I could help somebody else get through those same things, but get through it a lot easier. Like, kind of like how people say, God is assigning you this mountain to show others that it could be moved. Like, that quote is just, like, so real to me, because I'm like, now I know why I went through that stuff. So just seeing my students be successful, like, so much faster than I was, like, that really excites me. So I'm always like, oh my, you know, so-and-so is doing this. Like, I just checked on, she was actually my first graduate that left her job. So in May, she'll be celebrating 4 years being self-employed. So I text her like, what you doing? You know, I haven't talked to you in a while. She's like, oh, I'm in Jamaica on business. Like, I have no idea what she's doing, but that is so exciting to me. Like, before, you might have been just going to Jamaica on a trip, but now you're going there like on business. Like, especially for me, when I see, I mean, because we work with people of all ages, but when I see my clients that are younger than me, like, oh my gosh, I love it so much, because it reminds me of myself, but with better resources. So I'm looking at that like, oh my goodness, you know, where are they going to be when they're 30? You know, where are they going to be even when they're 25? Like, it amazes me. So I would have to say, like, that is my proudest moment. Like, I know people be like, girl, shut up about these clients, but I'm always going to talk about them. I'm always going to talk about the Annies, the Jessicas, the Tatums. Like, I'm always going to talk about y'all. So, I mean, that's what helps me get up out of bed when I'm tired. You know, that's what gets me going when I'm supposed to be off, when I'm on vacation. Like that is definitely my proudest, or those are my proudest moments as an entrepreneur.
And I think it's so great when you're in a service-based business. You get that instant gratification back because you're just watching the transformation. And I think that's what makes it so great with what you do and what all of us do, is that that keeps us going. That's the motivation right there. Like, you can't give up because you see the impact that you're having on other people. So
and I have to add, because I remember when you first told me about this podcast, like, and just to see how it's grown in such a short period of time, like, I just see this, like, years from now, like, this is the future of podcast. Like, that's so exciting. Like, that's so exciting. So just to be able to say, like, oh my gosh, I remember when that was just an idea, and to really be here, like, record, it's like, what? Like, we were just talking about this on the phone. Like, that is so exciting to me. Like, that's why it's so important to do something that you love and really be walking in your purpose, because that's what makes a difference. Like, not just for you, but for everybody. So I love seeing stuff like this.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I don't even think we said this yet, but you're celebrating 6 years, right?
It'll be 6 years in August.
Yes, 6 years this year being self-employed.
Yes.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
On that.
So surreal.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait. I cannot wait. So tell us, how have you been able to just manage for 6 years? Like, that's a long time.
I know. It's like, oh my God, it's so surreal. Because it feels like the time goes by so slow, and then you look up and it's like 6 years. Like, gosh, soon I'm going to be pushing 10. It's like so crazy to me. How I've been able to manage, oh my goodness. You have to be consistent. Yes. You have to be consistent. You have to be dedicated. Like, if you can't be dedicated, you're not in the right business. If you can't be dedicated, if it's not fun, it's not always going to be fun. But if it doesn't wake you up in the morning, you're not in the right business. I will also say being humble. Like, humility is so important. Like, and entrepreneurship will humble you real quick. And that's why, you have to go through those phases of not making any money and feeling like you're on a journey alone, because when you get certain things, it makes you appreciate it. Like, if I would have been, like, financially well off when I first left my job at 23, I would have been a mess. Like, I probably would have lost all my money because I would have been spending it on shoes or, other dumb stuff. Like, I mean, just all those things. Like, success doesn't happen overnight for a reason. Like, I always tell people, be wary of success that comes too fast. Like, be wary of it, because every level of success is meant to teach you a lesson that's going to prepare you for your next level. So definitely the hard work, the dedication, the humility is really important. Surrounding yourself with the right people. I have really, really great people around me. Like, and when I say great people, I mean people who are multimillionaires and you would never know because they're so humble. They're so humble. They're so helpful. Like, they treat everybody the same. Like, just things like that. It's powerful. Like, how you treat people matters. I remember I was at this conference actually last summer in Atlanta, and it was so weird because it was actually a personal development conference. It had nothing to do with business. And I kept seeing all these people like, oh my gosh, you're so-and-so. And it was like so weird. Like, oh my God. Like, you don't even know how to react when you didn't come for this, but this is what is like transpiring. So I could have easily kind of let that get to my head. Like, oh, everybody knows, who I am, but I hug people. I talk to people, like, very much, I'm not going to say I'm the most friendly person. I'm not mean, but I'm not like, super like, oh my gosh, let's be best friends after knowing each other for a day. No, but I'm like a hugger and, all that stuff. Like, I remember at that conference, I was using a restroom and I came out and the lady was like, in there like cleaning. And so she's like, oh, like, are you enjoying the conference? And I was talking to her like, yes, ma'am, have a good weekend, like, be blessed. And I will never forget the smile on her face, probably because nobody talks to her like that, because they look at her like, she's the janitor. But just to make somebody's day, like, being a good person, having good character, like, that will take you very far as an entrepreneur. Another thing I would say, like, giving selflessly, because you never know when, you're going to need somebody. And that's why you got to treat the intern you better treat them good. I just had a situation actually a couple weeks ago where an old boss emailed me and was telling me how she got laid off with like basically no severance package. And now, you know, things are very rough on her and her family. And that's so unfortunate. You know, I wish I could say that that's the first time I heard a story like that, but I hear those things very frequently. But when I was her intern, she was so good to me, like so good to me. So when I saw that email, I'm like, call me on this day. I'll help you. She wants to start a business. Like, I'm going to help her. Like, so how you treat people is so important. Another thing is giving back, like giving back and really tithing. Like so many people do not do that. And of course, you don't give back with the thought of, oh my goodness, I just donated to this nonprofit. You know, what can I get in return? Or I'm tithing just so that I can get this back. You know, you want to give selflessly and give with somebody else in mind and not yourself. But doing things for other people is so important. Another thing to sustain as an entrepreneur, I would say definitely discernment. Like it's people who I can just like smell from a mile away that they're not any good. And that's why like I don't, especially at this phase in my business, like I don't care how good the opportunity looks. I'm not attaching myself to certain people. We're not about to be in no selfie. We're not about to be on a flyer and having this conference together because you aren't right. And you don't treat people right. And I don't want that type of connection with my business and everything that I've worked so hard for. So being very mindful of who you're around, oh my gosh, it's so important as an entrepreneur. Like just that understanding that everything that glitters is not gold. Like you gotta be so aware of that.
Those are some really good tips. So my last question, well, second to last question, it's kind of a fun one.
Okay.
So I feel like I have this daydream, right? And I said, when I start making a lot of money, I'm probably going to stunt for a little bit. Like I'm going to buy the stuff that I cannot afford right now.
As you should.
So my question is, what is that first thing or the first few things that you purchased once you were like, yeah, I made it?
So everybody has a vice, y'all. Everybody. I don't care what they say. I don't care if it's, I don't know, cars, clothes, whatever. Everybody has some type of vice. So that's the first thing. Don't let people make you feel bad about your vice because everybody has one. I would have to say for me, like, I don't remember. Okay, no, the exact first thing I purchased was definitely my car. Because I remember when I was leaving my job and people were like, girl, they going to come and repossess your car because you leaving your job and you're not going to be making any money. So when I was driving that car, like as I was self-employed, it was like, that was the last thing to me that was kind of holding me to my job. Because it was like, y'all said that I couldn't keep this car, but I don't care about this car. When I left my job, it was like, take everything. I don't, you know, I don't care. Like, I don't want it. I just want to be free. Like, I just want to be out here, be self-employed. So letting that car go and, you know, being able to be 24 and buy a car that I really wanted. Like, it was like, I mean, I didn't tell anybody. Like, I pulled up to my mother's house. She like, what is that? What are you doing? Like, so that had to be like my first thing. Yeah, I mean, to be 24 and have a really nice car was good for me. I would have to say my vice is probably shoes. And if my soon-to-be fiance is listening, oh my gosh, because he knows, like, shoes. I think I have a shoe collection that probably is like $20,000.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I have a lot of shoes, but I really enjoy shoes. I do. But I do think that it's important to treat yourself. I mean, strategically, and be mindful. But I think it's important because you gotta always have the next thing that you're working towards. You know, you gotta have the next thing that you're working towards, and you need to have something that reminds you of just the success that you've been able to experience. And I think that's important because as an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter what level you're at in your business, there are always going to be ups and downs. It's always going to be some point where you feel like, oh my goodness, the world is falling apart. Everything is just not coming together. And when you look at certain things, when you look at your vice, it's like, well, how did I get that? Through my success? So it just reminds you, like, you know, the same way I did that then, I can do it again. So
Right.
I do think that, we work very hard as entrepreneurs, and I feel like we deserve to be rewarded. And that's why, like, I don't know if I did this when you were in the program, but I always have my clients answer questions about, like, what do you want? What does success mean to you? Because
Right.
success is so different to other people. Like, we could go down a line of all of us, and you might say, well, success to me means having 8 nice cars, parked outside.
Right.
I might say success to me means having 5 shoe closets, in my house. I mean, who knows? Like, what success means to each of us is different. And that's
Right.
so important, because what are you working towards? If you don't know what success means to you, somebody else will tell you what success means to you. And you'll look up and you'll have all these things and you're not happy. To me, a big thing was traveling, because I had to say no so much to go in places. So it's like, I need to go to Paris. I need to go here. I need to go there. Like last year, 2016, I took some out of the country trips, but I didn't get to take a abroad trip because I had so many weddings that were out of the country. I just couldn't get it in my schedule. But I was like, this year I have to go back abroad, because to me, like, that's happiness. I love
Right.
to experience, other cultures and see how they eat, see how they live, and just be a part of that. So yeah, I think to answer that, you gotta treat yourself as an entrepreneur. Like, don't be silly, but you gotta, don't be out here just because you saw one nice check. Now you won't go and buy, a Maserati or something like that.
Right.
But I actually have like a system for how I treat myself. So it's a certain amount that I can go over, a certain amount that I can't go over every month. And I'll set goals like, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z, I can do this.
Right.
Like, it's certain things that financially I could have it, but because I've set certain stipulations for myself, I don't have it. Like, I want a Chanel bag, but I want this property first.
Right.
So it's like, no, after I get that, I'll get another bag. Like, and that's it. So, just being mindful of how you treat yourself.
Okay. See, I just want my wine cellar. That's it.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm coming over.
That's all I need. Just give me like a
Red,
nice couch.
please.
Yes, all red. White wine is for beginners. But
Oh, you like
don't
white?
Say nothing. So
No, I love red.
my last question is just, what advice would you give that new entrepreneur who's just having trouble figuring out what they should do? They're scared, and it's just all this stuff just blocking them. What would you tell them?
Oh my gosh. So I know this sounds cliche, but first and foremost, you have to pray. Pray about everything. Like, pray often. Pray wherever. If you're out in public and you got to go in a restroom, if you got to go sit back in your car, like, pray a lot, because that's going to be the source of your strength in the beginning, middle, end, everything. So
Right.
you got to get that prayer life in order. Surround yourself with the right people. Like, a big part of my program is like, and actually my favorite part of our coaching programs is having the retreats and connecting people.
Right.
Because a lot of people come to us and it's like, I don't have anybody in my family that's an entrepreneur. I don't have any friends that's an entrepreneur. Well, you can't leave here and not say that you don't know anybody that's an entrepreneur, because all of y'all are in the same room together, building your businesses together. So definitely figuring out how to surround yourself with the right people. I would say another thing is making a decision. And this sounds like it's so simple, but you'd be surprised at how many people don't do it. You got to make the decision that you are not going to give up. You got to make the decision, this is what I really want. I'm going to go hard for it, whatever it is that I need to do to make it happen. I used to tell myself that first year, like, my affirmation, I would say it every morning, every night, and however many times in between when I needed it. I would be like, I will be a successful entrepreneur no matter how hard it is or how hard it gets. I will be successful. And I had to keep telling myself that until I started to believe it. And then when I started to believe it, it really happened. So it's so amazing to me how you can literally speak things into existence. And you look up and it's like, oh my goodness, I was just talking about this. I was just writing this on my vision board and now it really happened. Vision boards is another resource that's so powerful. When I first started, when I was still at my job actually, but I had my business, I would look up at my vision board. The first thing on it was entrepreneur. The next thing was, paying off debt, all that. And I knew I couldn't really do that how I wanted to at my 9 to 5.
Right.
So just making sure that you have those constant reminders around you. Another thing I would say is invest in conferences. That's something that when I was at my 9 to 5, I didn't do it enough. And I wish that I did, because while you're at your job is your investor. Right. So the worst thing that you can do is just put all this money into just saving, and you leave and you got this fat savings account, but now you don't have the investor that's backing you. So you definitely want to put some resources into your savings, but you want to invest some resources into yourself and your business as well. And if you feel like you can't do it on your own, like, don't be too, what's the word I'm looking for? Don't be too arrogant to get help and get assistance. Like, it is so many resources that entrepreneurs are hip to these days that were not around when I started my business. Like, people having free webinars every other day and free like, none of that stuff was around, back when I started my business. So just being able to get on that stuff, it's like, if you can't afford free 99, I don't even know, you obviously don't want to be in business. So just taking that time out for self-development. I read a lot. Not as much as I used to read early on, but reading is so important. Like reading books about mindset, reading books about, one of my favorites is Black Business Secrets by Dante Lee. It's Dante, Dante, Lee, spelled the normal way. But he has so many resources in there that can help like minorities be successful in business. And I remember I think the subtitle is like over 500 resources. So I'm like, all right, it's 500. One of them got to work. Right. Like, that was my mindset. So just immersing your brain into things like that is so powerful. Like, I had to stop reading, the little urban books. Not that, those aren't still good from time to time. Yes, Keisha's Super Secret Love Life, whatever. Not that they aren't good from time to time, but I needed to learn about those things in that moment to help me grow as a person. Like, and I think also, like, understand that when you become an entrepreneur, whether you're self-employed yet or not, you are not just an entrepreneur now. You're a leader. And with leadership, comes things. Like, they just talked about that at church. Like, you want the crown, but are you ready for the cup? Like, are you ready for what comes with that crown? And I think people really play themselves in the beginning because they feel like, and I get it to an extent, because you have people that paint the picture like it's so easy. And that's why I love to share my story and be so candid. Like, listen, my credit score dropped. I wasn't making any money when I first started. I went through my state. Like, I need to share that story because somebody needs to know, somebody that's in that situation, they need to know, like, no, it can change, it can turn around, and it's not supposed to be overnight, and here's why. They need to know that, like, you can have it, you can have the success, but know that it's going to come with stuff. It's going to test you. It's going to make you cry. It's going to feel like you're in a fight and, you are in a straitjacket because you can't fight back. It's going to be very, very challenging, but being a business owner is one of the most rewarding things like you will ever do. I mean, I have met people that I know I wouldn't know if I was still at my 9 to 5. I've been places, like, I'm 28. I've been places that I know people won't go there in their lifetime. Like, I've seen, the type of financial abundance that a lot of people don't ever get to see in their lifetime. So just a lot of benefits and perks to really getting out there. Like, I love the quote from Ludacris that says God rewards people that aren't afraid to fail. Because that's how that's the mindset you got to be in when you first start. Like, listen, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where this is going to go. And I might fall on my face hard, but I'm going to get back up and I'm going to keep on doing it. I'm going to keep on going, and I'm going to do this. Again, making that decision very, very early on.
That was great advice. So, Raevyn, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, we definitely have to get you back at some point. But
I would love to.
Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. And that's about it, guys. We'll be back.
And we're back. Tatum, bomb interview.
Thank you.
I was sitting here, guys, like, writing down. I started working on my company, but fun thing about it is Raevyn's going to be at the Entrepreneurs Brunch. So if you like what you heard today on the show, think about what you can get up close and personal when she's at the brunch. So I wouldn't miss it if I was you. But that was the dope interview. I'm super excited that Raevyn came and Tatum reached out to her and brought her on the show. So that's the win, Tatum. Good job. High five it. Y'all heard that? That was powerful. All right, so now we're going on to the wins of the week.
Whoop, whoop.
All right, let me make sure my yes is together because y'all know that yes be slacking.
She mess it up
sometimes.
every single show.
I do, but Raven gets a bunch of yeses, and she had these cute red bottoms on. I had to mention that. Them red bottoms was blinging, y'all, okay? Honey, listen, I'm gonna get me some one day when I become a full-time entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Okay, so the prototype life. The win of the week for the prototype life was sold out my first event. It's on Saturday, and I'm so excited to bring together this group of creatives and entrepreneurs. Hashtag under the influence.
That's dope. I like that hashtag. All right, rewind.
See, I told y'all. Just be prepared. Okay, let's try this again. See, we're going to get a button that says that, so I don't have to keep doing this on my phone and failing a few times on this podcast.
Yes. So who's next?
All right, next, well, we had Raven's wins. So you just heard her wins. Her coming up on her 6th year of being an entrepreneur. So that's the big yes. So.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the big win. My win for the week was I went to North Carolina last Sunday for my client, Vina E. Yes, I'm Pretty V on Instagram. Instagram. And she had a coat drive and a meet and greet, and it was an absolute success. So she's excited about it. And then she just became the newest brand ambassador for Dare to Have Hair.
Yes.
So that's my wins for the week. Like I say all the time, my client's success is my success. So that was a win for me. And that's honestly all I have. It was a slow week, but
No, it's okay.
We had those.
Yeah, it happens. So I went to Hampton this past week and spoke at their first ever beauty bash. It was put on by the Zetas at Hampton. So shout out to you guys. And it was cute. The tagline was "Empowered Women, Empower Women." So that was dope. We actually use it on one of our graphics on Instagram, but it was pretty fun. I drove down there. My 2 best friends came with me, and it was so cool because last episode we talked about like having your friends and stuff, and Raven touched on that too. So one of my friends sold T-shirts, another one recorded it and took pictures. So it was awesome. I only had to focus on what I was there to do. So that was definitely a win to do that and share it with my besties.
Yes.
And then also, I got approved to take, I wanted to do, well, for y'all that don't know, my undergrad degree is in PR. And before I graduated and since graduating, I've been doing marketing. So it's been a little while in the marketing field. So I wanted a marketing certification just because I didn't get this marketing specific education when I was in undergrad. And so PR and marketing, they're similar. They're under the same umbrella. But what I like about marketing is that marketing is the vehicle that drives sales. So with PR, you manage that perception. You manage what people think. You manage the image and stuff of who you are or what the business is. But marketing is that thing that's going to drive them coins to your bank account. So that's why I love marketing so much. And so I applied to take the certification for, it's called the PCM, the Professional Certified Marketer.
Okay.
So that was pretty cool because you're supposed to have, if you have a bachelor's degree, you're supposed to have like 4 years of experience in order to even apply for it. And so I had the 4 years of experience because I started it before graduating.
Right.
So that was cool. I'll probably be like one of the youngest people to get it. So I'm excited about that, and I'll let y'all know when I pass the test. Here she goes. Y'all, somebody send. No.
Let's try it again for Tatum. Okay. But for the record, I just want to let y'all know the first time on all the other episodes when I do yes for Tatum, it doesn't work. And this time it did work the first time. So give me credit for that.
I'm asleep.
Don't bash me for that because I did damn good that first time. So don't do that. Give me my credit. Win for me.
Whatever. We also want to shout out some wins. They didn't submit these to us, but for y'all that follow us on social media, we had put something out like 2 weeks ago where we were looking for contributors, and we had one and we were looking for 3 more. And so we finally narrowed down all of our submissions. So thank you guys. We had like almost 30 people send us their information. So thank y'all so much for submitting them. So we do want to shout out the women that we picked. One of them, her name is Jody K. Edwards, at Jody K. Edwards on Instagram. Lifestyle Finesse is the name of her blog. So she's really, really sweet. It's funny because she's the catalyst of this whole contributor thing. She sent us a DM and was like, I want to contribute content for the podcast. And so I was like, all right. So then me and Milan talked about it and was like, no, let's have multiple contributors and let's, redo our website and create this digital community that we were going to do anyway, but she kind of just expedited it. So shout out to Jody. She's going to be one of our contributors. Next, it was Lakeisha Fit. And so she's the owner of 1987 Juices out of Los Angeles, California. And so she's going to be our lifestyle, wellness, go-to person. So look out for great content for her. Then we picked Zuri Lynn. And so we love Zuri because she always supports the podcast, always comments on stuff, always sends us messages, and just is super duper engaged with us. And so we definitely appreciate you, Zuri, for showing us so much love. And we are so happy to have you on the podcast as one of our contributors for our new digital platform. And so Zuri is going to be the go-to person for Black-owned businesses and companies and products and all that stuff. So all of you Black girl bosses that want us to either review your stuff or talk about your stuff, send us an email at blackgirlbosses@gmail.com, and one of our contributors will write about it. And lastly, we chose Brianna. Her last name is Walls, right?
Yeah, she's a Bowie State University student.
We need more Morgan people reaching out. I don't appreciate this Bowie stuff.
We just flourish out here. That's all.
Oh my gosh. But guys, Brianna is super duper dope. She has a great blog. So definitely look out, y'all. We're going to shout everybody out on social media once our website launches. So you guys will get to know, you guys will get to know our contributors and their businesses and things like that. So that's definitely a win for them. Do we got the...
We do. Pulling it up. Give me a second, guys. I wasn't prepared. You know what? I quit. I quit. I'm quitting. Well, let's try it again. Come on. There we go. All right, y'all. I'm sorry. This is just not the day for the yeses. I need a button. So if anybody makes buttons and you want to send us one, we will definitely write about that because we need that yes button. ASAP Rocky.
Okay. One win for the podcast, though. We have surpassed the 2,000 download marks. Like, we're almost at 3,000 downloads.
Whoop, whoop.
This is ridiculous. Like,
I'm going to give a personal yes. Yes.
Yeah, so y'all are showing us so much love. So thank you guys for that. Stay tuned for all the great things that are coming from the Black Girl Boss podcast. Y'all can follow me on Instagram at Tatum Temia, TatumTemia, and follow Milan at
HEYYLAN _ Hey Lon.
Thanks y'all for listening.